Hello, hello. It's been a while. Why do I feel like it's been a while? But I think I just skipped 1 week. Did I skip 1 week? Who knows? But I'm glad you're here. So we're going to be painting this little candle. I thought that it would be fun. Well, maybe fun's the wrong word, but it would be like a good like customizable thing, so you can do it where it's more like holiday colors. If you want like a deep green background with like a red candle for Christmas, or whatever holiday you celebrate, or if you just want fall colors because it's still fall, that's fine. If you want it to be like a candle of mourning for our favorite show, that's cool too. This is just like very I just picked the color blue, but you don't have to do that. So when we get up to that, you get to decide which direction you kind of want to take this in. For me, I just did a black background because I wanted it to be kind of neutral. I didn't want it to be too like holiday focused. But you do you. It also doesn't have to be focused on anything. Like, it doesn't have to have a theme. It doesn't have to be about Supernatural or the fandom or the holidays or the season. Like, you can just paint a pink candle because you enjoy the color pink. So there's that too. I am going to get myself some paint. I finally caved and bought myself black paint because I ran out of absolutely every drop that I had. So I need that first. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch this around. Let's see here. I'm going to, ordinarily I'd say let's paint the whole background black because it kind of like adds to the dark and gloomy. But if you're not doing black, then that won't work. So what I'm going to suggest we do instead, and this is for everybody, also because it helps with the like dry time situation, you're going to take your big background brush and you could just get it a little wet, grab a little bit of paint, whatever color you're doing for your background. And I'm just mixing it with some of the water that's on my brush. Hi, Amy. And I just made like a little bit of paint soup, like just a little bit watered down paint so it's not real thick. And I'm just going to loosely sketch my candle. And by loosely sketch, I mean I'm kind of just going to do a triangle. But I'll show you. Not a triangle. The candle is not triangular, a rectangle. So first you have to decide how big you want this candle to be. Maybe this is something that if you have a large campus and you're wanting to display it for the holidays or for whatever reason, maybe you want to paint for a little bit longer beyond this class and you want to do like 2 or 3 candles in like a cluster. That's cool. I'm just going to do one for now. So I want it to be like the main portion of my canvas. So I'm going to do that side right there. And this is like really watered down paint. Just to make it easy that if I'm like, oh no, I don't like that, like it just makes it easier to kind of paint over. And then I'm going to say, okay, so I want it to be about the same distance away. And I'm going to do this guy. I want to make sure I'm leaving room on the bottom. So I don't want it to take it like all the way off the canvas. Wow, this is really watered down. It's dripping, guys. I watered my paint down just a bit too much. And then I'm going to finish the bottom off with like a little smirky face. It's not quite a smile because that would be big, but it's just a little smirk. And then this guy, you can decide like which direction you want your candle to be burning and hollowed out on. But I'm just going to follow what I did there and make this a little bit taller. And I'm just going to kind of do that. Basic, just connecting the 2 lines. This is like super duper subject to change. I just wanted to kind of block this space off so I didn't waste paint or time painting that area if it didn't need to be. And so now I'm just going to paint the whole background around it black. Again, if you've chosen a different color, go for it. Also, if anybody has any tips or tricks, I cut my own bangs and then I'm over them. I'm trying to like get them to do this swoopy thing. Like I'm trying to grow them out to do the swoopy thing because that like curtain bang thing is back in. And I feel like that's a little less maintenance than me cutting my own bangs every 2 weeks and then being annoyed. So if anybody has any tips on how to untrain this to go back to how it was, that would be great. So standard background conversation is always about what we're watching on television. So I just started, don't spoil because I didn't finish, but I started the Queen's Gambit. And I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I like the show. It's holding my attention. It's so beautifully lit, like from a photography standpoint. Whoever is the director of photography for that show is, and I like it because I sat there and watched 4 episodes straight yesterday for 4 hours with my mom, and my mom likes it. But it just feels very manipulative to me, and I don't know if I can get past that. You have to let them grow out and then push them as they grow out. Yeah, I was thinking maybe if I like, I also have a cowlick right there, which doesn't help. But I was thinking if I like pinned it while I slept. This looks really doofy, but I don't know. We'll see. They're just a mess right now. So yes, what is anybody else watching? I've heard really good things about The Queen's Gambit, so I think I'm definitely gonna finish it. I'm definitely gonna finish it today. But I'm curious what else everybody's watching. You could use bobby pins or something. Yeah. You mean instead of letting my bangs literally grow into my eye, that I should pin them out of my face so I can see? It's a novel idea. I probably should have thought of that. Because, you know, seeing is kind of important when you're arting. I've gone through, yeah. I think that's why I don't do the bang thing often, because I really like what they look like. The growing out of them is annoying. And it's also weird because I've had these bangs for, I think I did them in April or May, so I've had them for months. And I feel like I haven't had them at all because I haven't like gone out into the world and like had events and stuff where lots of pictures are taken. So I feel like there's just going to be this gap in my life. I feel like there's going to be a gap in all of our lives where there's just not much documentation happening, which is not a bad thing. Like, I feel like the constant documentation of life and things that are going on is a fairly new thing. So, I don't know, I'm getting all philosophical. Watching Baby Yoda. Still on ER. Yeah, I re-downloaded Hulu because why did I get Hulu? Oh, because I wanted to watch Happiest Season. And they had like a Black Friday special where it was $1.99. So I re-downloaded Hulu, and then I was like, okay, well I have it now, so I guess I can go back to watching ER. And I put on season 5 because it's one of my favorites, but it also happens to be like I have 2 seasons of ER on DVD, and it's season 5 and season 6. So I didn't need Hulu to do that. Just thought that was silly. I really want to watch The Mandalorian, but since I haven't seen any of the other, well, I saw the first Star Wars now, and I really didn't like it. So I'm just trying to decide if I know some people watch it without watching the rest of the movies, but I feel like it just won't be the same, you know? Yeah, Lucy, she was my favorite. And they'd done her so dirty. Well, they didn't do her dirty. It it was a fantastic storyline. But it ruined Valentine's Day for me. Do you ever have that? Like, I feel like actually we probably all have that now. But like where a fictional show will just kind of like ruin, like how Supernatural ruined Tuesdays for us. Like, I just feel like sometimes you get so into the fake storyline that it bleeds into your real life and you're like, oh no, this will never be the same. I hope everybody who celebrates or participates, because there's really not a I feel like celebrating American Thanksgiving is like not the word we should use anymore since it has such negative connotations. But like the origin of American Thanksgiving is horrible, but the sentiment around it is like the modern sentiment around it is good. So I feel like there should be a word for that. But anyway, I hope if you participate in American Thanksgiving that you had a good holiday and that you were safe and that you had a leftover Thanksgiving sandwich because that's the best part of Thanksgiving. Lost. I watched Lost when it was on. Like I didn't binge or stream it or anything like that. I watched it when it was on television, and it's one of the few shows that I like gave up and stopped watching. Like I very rarely do that because usually I get so invested that even if I don't like the story anymore, I still need to know where it goes. But I got up to, I don't know, was it like season 3 or something? Wherever the season finale, there was like the big light in the sky and the noise and whatever, and I was like, nope, I'm out. You jumped the shark. I can't do it anymore. Plus, I really only watched the show for Sawyer, so it wasn't really a good enough reason to keep watching. But actually, lately, I feel like, especially with pandemic and things like that, like I just have been stopping watching shows left and right. I stopped watching Grey's Anatomy. I think I mentioned this before. Like after devoting 16 years of my life to Grey's Anatomy, like I watched it from day one, and then they screwed it up, and I couldn't do it anymore. And sometimes you just have to walk away. All right, so once you've gotten your background painted, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just put a little table, like just like a surface for your candle to be sitting on. I don't have my white paint. Where's my white paint? Please hold. And I'm sorry if there's a loud noise when I move this chair. I'm sitting in a rocking chair. White paint. Okay. I'm back. Making noise everywhere. Okay. So I'm going to just get a little white. We're going to need white for the candle too. Even no matter what color you choose, you're going to need white for like highlighting and shading and shadowing. This is really just like a study in lighting, which in general, if you're really trying to like learn that skill, you should be working from an actual still life with a light so you can actually see how it really reacts. So if that's something that interests you, I can't guarantee that we're going to ever do that here, but if you have like a desk lamp or something and you want to just get like a bowl of fruit out and just kind of paint from life, that's one of the first things I would do. Okay, so I'm going to grab some white and some black. You technically didn't have to wash your brush, I just did it out of habit. And I'm just going to streak a little bit in. Doesn't have to be like an entirely brand new color, just a little bit lighter. And I'm just roughly streaking it. If you streak it across your candle, that's fine too. So we're gonna paint over that. And you know me, I love a good paintbrush texture, so I'm not gonna be overly critical here. You do want it to come up a little bit on your candle so it doesn't look like, you don't want to stop your table at the bottom of the curve. You want it to go up higher so it looks like the candle's actually sitting on the table, not floating on top of it. So just keep that in mind. Okay, works for me. Okay, so now you have to decide what color you want your candle to be. And we're just gonna paint it one flat color first, so you don't have to worry about the shade and the shadow and things like that. But let's see, I'm gonna do a golden candle this time. Why not? You know, my like raw sienna color. You could dig that. I will never be at that level of maturity where that sound doesn't make me laugh. Just won't get there. Okay, now the certain colors, particularly these raw sienna, is very sheer. And usually I would say to mix it with white first, but for this purpose, what I'm doing right now is like a base color. I don't particularly need it to be solid. It could be streaky. We just want to kind of lay the color down. There's a terrible glare on there, huh? Okay, that's better. So I'm just kind of getting that in there. Now, one thing I will say is that whatever color you choose, sometimes the color that you are going to mix with it to make a shadow or highlight is going to change. So usually I would say your highlight you're going to mix white with, and your shadows you're going to mix some black with it, and go from there. And that's perfectly fine, like 99% of the time. But sometimes you can get a little weird color when that happens. So for example, I'll just tell you, this particular color, this golden color that I've chosen, when I mix it with black, it's going to become very gray. And I'm personally okay with that. I think that'll look cool. But if you were looking to just darken it without it being gray, you can add like a brown. That would not give you that same gray cast. So you have your choices. Sorry, I'm looking for my paints. Oh, I left them over there. Okay. So I'm just gonna work with what I have because I don't want to get up again. And another example would be for your highlights. If you're doing a warm color like this, like a golden color or an orange, possibly even a red, you can use a little white for your highlights, but then also maybe yellow, like a bright yellow. So a highlight doesn't necessarily have to be lighter. It can just be brighter, if that makes sense. What I am going to do though, is I'm going to take this golden color. I'm going to take, actually, I probably shouldn't do this on my big brush, but whatever brush you are comfortable using. I'm just going to take the golden color and some white and mix it together because I'm going to paint on top of this black and I want it to cover. So I'm gonna go here and just kind of bring that up a little bit more and then create that inside. We're gonna flush it out more because we have to kind of dip below here too, but right now I just wanted to make a little wiggly shape at the top for the back portion, this back line, which is going to be mostly in shadow, but we need to kind of start to build the structure there. So now while I have this lighter mixture on my brush, I'm going to carve out the front line too. So I'm going to go back up to this little point and I'm just going to kind of dip across. You can kind of see that. The main thing in here is try not to create anything too perfect. you want it to have some wiggle. Like this is a wax candle that's melting. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So there's no reason that it would be like all one particular shape. It's not always gonna melt in that exact way. Okay. How are we doing? I washed my brush off and I'm going to grab some more black. And I'm going to go back in now and just kind of carve out this inside. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And there's lots of shading and shadowing that's going to happen. Doing okay, good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm going to put my big brush away and I'm going to switch to like my Spencer brush because I think I need a little bit more thinness for some of these things. So this is my Spencer brush. Any smaller brush will really do. There's no reason it needs to be a round brush. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my gold. I'm still working on this little area here for right now. Yes, taking notes. Ooh, this is gonna look really cool for watercolor. I think that is a good idea though, because I don't know that the layering that I'll do will work in the same order for watercolor. So that's good. Good idea to take notes. Okay, so I took this golden color again and I'm going to pull it across the back line. So I have some wet paint here. And then I'm gonna grab a little bit of black on my brush. I didn't wash my brush. And I'm going to mix it in and go back and forth to kind of blend it because I want this to be like the candle color, but in shadow. So I'm just kind of pulling it along the shape like that. So you can kind of see what I did there. Because the back part of this candle is still this color. It's not like it's a deep cavernous hole that would be solid black. So we just want to kind of add a little bit of that back color. And now you didn't have to wash your brush either. Now that you have this like black with a little bit of your regular color. Again, if you're choosing to do different colors, just like insert there instead of when I say gold or black. If you did your background like a light blue, you don't want to put light blue here because it's a shadow. So you will still want to do like a black or a dark version of whatever your candle color is. So just keep that in mind. So now I have this black with my candle color on my brush. I'm going to go in and start to just do a little bit of an outline, just an idea of where I want my little drips to be. Using pastels instead of paint. Ooh, I'm excited. Okay, And so where you put your drips are really up to you. I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. And again, we want it to be irregular and inconsistent. It usually would be heavier at the bottom of the drip, so just keep that in mind. And you can go in and do layers of drips. So like I have a couple like older drips that are here. It's not like a requirement that you have 4 drips though. So like do whatever feels right to you. You could just do that first layer. It's all good. Okay. So much of the rest of this is blending. And you either love blending or you hate it. I love it because it's so much fun. It's like playing with stuff until it's like, oh, like blending, the way blending works is that it looks like a hot mess. And then all of a sudden you hit that sweet spot and you're like, oh, yes, this is right. So that's why I like it. So whatever brush you are comfortable with for the size of your main candle is totally up to you. I am going to, I need more of my golden color. Again, I'm going to use black because it's my background color and I think it'll just work. But if you're wanting to use, like, for example, if your candle is going to be light blue, you might just want to do your shadows in dark blue or just dark blue with a little bit of black mixed in. That kind of makes like a navy blue. So when I say black, think of what is my shadow color instead of, oh, I have to actually put black here. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to take my dark color and I'm going to just start at the bottom of my candle. And start blending. So the way that will look is you'll just kind of lay down a little bit of this darker color. I'm going to go up the sides a little bit. And you can decide how much of this is going to be dark. So maybe I want a lot of this to be in shadow because I want like a dark and moody vibe. And you may need a little bit of water to help make this happen, to help everything be kind of smooth. I'm going up the sides here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm not going to wash my brush, but I'm just going to take more of the golden color by itself and smush that into the top. And that's how I'm going to get my more gentle kind of blending. So I'm just working in more of that golden color to soften that line. There's also nothing wrong with the brush strokes happening in your candle, in your shading. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. I'm going to do the same thing with this stuff. So I'm just going to go back over these lines a little bit just to make sure that they have wet paint on them. And then I'm going to go in with my gold and soften them. But here's the thing, because it is an actual new structure, like the drip is actually has a hard line, I do want to keep a little bit of the dark, the shadow color, the black, as a hard line. So I don't want to blend it in both directions. Like I'm not going to blend from the top and the bottom. I'm just going to blend from the bottom. I'm going to leave just a little bit of that shadowy color. And this is something that if you go overboard with the blending, you can always go back with a really light touch and just put a little bit more black in there. So don't think that there's like the weight of the world on your shoulders to get this perfect. And remember, we still have to paint the inside, so there will be a level of coming in from the other side. But since the other side is closer to where your flame is going to be, it's going to be lighter on top. So the top side of your drips is going to be lighter than the rest of your candle because it's closer to that light source. Okay, and then I'm just taking my golden color and flushing that back out. Now, you can choose if you want to wash your brush. If you have a lot of your shadow color on there, you may want to do that. Let me just hold this a little closer so you can see where we're at here. So some of those black lines are really heavy, but most of them I kind of softened. This one right here is actually really heavy. I'm gonna soften that. Okay. So if you have a lot of that background color, you might want to wash it, but I'm just gonna go in. I don't mind having a little black with my lighter shades. Like I don't mind that graying that will happen, but you can absolutely wash your brush. So I'm grabbing some white and my gold color, and now I'm just gonna add some like highlighting to my actual candle. So I'm gonna go kind of down the edge here, and I might bring it across. And now all of this is still wet, and that's like exactly the point. So I'm trying to kind of blend it in with my gold. I'm gonna go down here. And you can change the directionality of your brush. There isn't too much right or wrong here because, like I said, we're not looking at an actual lit candle, so it's hard to know exactly where all of these shadows and textures would be coming from. But we just want to know, hey, there's going to be a light here, so everything closest to the light, which is going to be like this rim, is going to be the lightest, and then it kind of has got this like ambient lighting glow vibe. And honestly, I am a big fan of weird texture. Do you guys hear my mom playing with Zoe in the background? Sorry. Got distracted. So yeah, I like being really messy with my brush strokes when it's like appropriate. Like this is a fake candle. Who's to say it doesn't have this texture on it? Who's to say this isn't how the light would play on the surface of it? So that's just me. If you want a perfectly smooth blend, you can absolutely take the time to do that. It wouldn't take too long. Just would take maybe a little bit more patience than I have. This is also one of those subjects, like the candle, that I kind of like the idea of like like I just keep dragging my brush that has no product, no paint on it, until it like kind of forces a texture. I don't know. I kind of dig that. I'm sure there's a word for that or a technique, but I don't know. Okay, so that's my candle. And now that might change and evolve a little bit as we go, but we'll see. So now I'm going to work on this top rim here and make it look like it's one solid thing. So I've got my lighter color and I got just a little bit more white. And I'm going to kind of build it out. I'm going to go along the edge here. And you can bring it across the back a little bit too, maybe not the whole thing. And like, let it be lumpy bumpy. Let it go out beyond this line and this line. So see how I brought it out a little bit? Because that's how it would, that's kind of how a candle would melt. It would kind of melt and fold over. So let these guys be a little bit extended. And I'm going to just pull some of this lighter color into my drips. Now these two drips, because they are underneath, would actually probably be darker. So I'll probably go in and darken that up. But now I'm going to just go back in with my gold and kind of blend out these drips. So I'm blending out the highlight now. So I'm making it a little softer because it's like a soft candlelit glow. It doesn't need to have like a perfect shine line kind of thing. You do want these shapes though to be kind of, you want the lines to be clean. So maybe not the shading and the shadowing, but the exterior line of each like drip, you do want it to be clean because wax is solid. And that's kind of how it would behave. So that's where I'm at now. And you can go back in with a clean brush and you can go in and really kind of kiss the top edge here with some brighter white to really kind of dial in that highlight. Really anywhere that would be super close to that flame or that you feel needs a highlight. Okay. I could really sit here and blend highlights and shadows forever. I wonder if that's a job. Like, can I just add shadow and highlights to things that exist in real life? Can I go to a building and just paint it like it's still life? Like on the building? That would be cool. That would actually be really cool. Could you imagine like a whole little village main street and like the exterior surface of it is painted to look like it's a painting? That would be so cool. That has to exist somewhere. That can't be an original thought. But it's a lot of work. Lots of murals. But imagine it like changing seasonally. Like they have like their summer whatever, and then they have like a holiday winter vibe where everything is kind of kissed with snow, and that would be so cool. Okay, I digress. All right, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm going to just take. Now, I'm using the golden color, not because it's my candle, but because I think it's the closest to a wooden kind of wick color, like a rope wooden wick. So I would say maybe make some like yellowy orange, or if you have a lighter brown, you could use that for the wick. If you don't have any of those things, gray will be fine, because that's like kind of a charcoaly color, so you can mix yourself a little gray and just put a wick in. We're not going to go all the way down. We're just going to go here and up. So we can still kind of see the origin of it. And there'll be more added to that, but we just want to kind of get that in there. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of shadow here. If you've already like decided that your candle is done, you do not have to go in. Like I said, this is one of those things that I can do forever. So I will always look at it and be like, oh, but I want to add. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of black too. I know that a lot of what we're looking at here is black, but I just want to run it along one side of the color that I chose for my wick. It's going to help it to show that it's in front of this back line. So it's just going to help visually with that. Now, you can also go in, let's say whatever table surface you chose, let's say you went a little bit lighter than I did, because I went real dark with that table. You can add a little bit of a shadow. So you can grab some black and just really make sure that the bottom of this little smirky area is nice and dark. And I would think that the shadow would go the same side of this, because like that would block more of the candlelight. So I'm just going to pull my shadow out this way a little. It's hard to see that because of how dark I made my tabletop, but I promise it's there. Here, I'm going to add a little more light to my tabletop here. You don't have to do this. This is just me being ridiculous because I want you to see. Also, just make sure that your tabletop is like lining up. Like it looks like it continues across, because if your tabletop is up here on one side and down here on the other, it doesn't look like it's one table. Forgot to mention that earlier. So yeah, I just made this area a little darker because I wanted a shadowy vibe for my candle. Okay, cool. Now, for your flame, I believe, I haven't looked at a fire reference in a while, but I believe the hottest is blue, and then it goes white, and then yellow, red, or red, yellow. So you don't have to do the blue if that freaks you out. I do think the yellow and red are important though. I'm gonna get myself some yellow. And I can also show you now how, if you did a color similar to this or in the warm family, how you can use the yellow to highlight, because that's kind of fun. And red. You don't need a lot. Okay. So first I'm gonna grab a little bit of white, and you really don't need a lot. Like I'm gonna grab some on my brush, and then I'm gonna kind of drag it off because we're almost like dry brushing this. So I just got some white, and I'm just kind of going on either side in a really like light and wispy, like barely there dry brushing. See how it's, oh look, you can see all the spots I missed on my background. And then while I have the white still on my brush, I'm gonna go into my yellow. Now the yellow by itself, usually, most yellow paint is very transparent. So if you're putting it on a black background, it turns green. So you're going to have to grab some white and kind of, it still looks green, it's fine. Blend it together. And it's okay if some of this color ends up in front of your wick, because it would do that in real life. Like your flame would kind of surround your wick. And then I'm still not washing my brush. I'm gonna go into the red and just kind of go around the outside. But I kind of want it to mix together. So I'm gonna go back into my yellow and some white and make like an orangey tone here. I think the key to really helping it look like a flame is to be a little loose and sketchy with it. Like go out a little further than you think you need to, because like fire is not solid. Isn't that weird to think about? Like that fire isn't solid. Can you tell that I've like been by myself too long with these thoughts that I have? Okay. And the size of your flame can just be kind of proportionate to the size of your candle. I am gonna do like 2 more little details. And the first one is that I'm gonna go grab some more black, and I'm gonna go back over the wick very lightly, just to kind of get that structure back in there. I'm gonna wash my brush, because the last little detail here is to get a little bit of white paint, and again, you're gonna dry brush just along the outside. This is like a glowy light vibe. So I have hardly any paint on my brush, and I'm just kind of giving it that soft glow. Oh, that spot was a little bit too much paint, but that's okay. If you do have too much paint, you can always go into your black or your background color and just kind of tone that down. But yeah, just give yourself a little bit of glowiness surrounding your flame. And then take a step back, take a look back, and evaluate. See if there's anything that needs to be added, changed. Like I'm looking at mine right now, and my highlight is so strong up here, but there's not that much of it, like that color continuing. So I think I either need to add a little bit more. Yeah, that'll work. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of this lighter color. Just because I'm looking at it here and it's like, oh, that's so much. Where did it come from? So I'm just going to add a little bit. And I always like to paint following, especially if it's something that's cylindrical. I like to paint following the shape here. But that's it. Well, that's all she wrote. So after you've gotten your shading and shadow and all of that to your liking, I would love to see your artwork on social media. I can't wait to see what colors you chose. I'm just going to show you another closer up look. That flame, so you can see those little glowing vibes, but they're not too strong. And yeah, that's it for now. I'll come up with something for next week, and I'll see you then. Bye.